I heard about this university, but what I saw today until now is much, much more than I heard. And I was pleasantly surprised. And I even think about, if you agree, to have some collaboration. And instead of talking so much, I'll just start the lecture. So I'm a scientist. I joined science because I was curious. Actually, I grew up in such a poor family and in a neighborhood that knew nothing about science. When I was a child, my father died, and my mother was essentially uneducated. She had me and a baby, my sister. So I had, when I was young, very young, 11, 12, I had to teach my mother mathematics, how to fill up forms. And I think that this is why I respected science so much. But I never even dreamt that somebody will pay me for solving a problem that is interesting for me. This is what scientists are doing. I didn't know that there are scientists. I discovered it only when I was already a student. So I gave you all this introduction because already I was asked today, how did I become a scientist? How did I decide? I didn't decide, it just happened to me. And I'm very happy with it. So let's go on. So as a scientist, I wanted to understand a major process of life, maybe one of the most important process, which is the translation of the genetic code into cell workers. And I found out in the coffee that not everybody knows that the cell workers, all the workers of all living cells are proteins. So I asked one of the professors, do you know what is a protein? And he said, yes, in the steak, which is correct. Also in eggs, which is also correct. But we don't eat steak or eggs in order to start to grow a chicken or a cow in our stomach. The opposite. We are cooking them and our cells know how to cut them and use the building blocks to build the proteins that we need. So on this slide, I try to focus on only mammalian, or actually only human proteins, but proteins are doing the jobs everywhere, in every living cell. So some proteins are performing the normal cellular life for smooth life, like breathing, digestion, even muscles, they are proteins. And some are needed only when there are problems. When there is pressure, they are responding to it, and I must say that cells are very clever. They know to respond fast and good. I have here some examples, of course it's not all. Heat or cold shock, immune response is also proteins. Organ failure, so maybe I talk about it for a second. For instance, heart. I assume that all of you know at least one person, or heard about at least one person, oh, my heart, was brought to a hospital, and the doctor said, yes, you had a heart event, but you took care of it on your own. On your own means two proteins that were made exactly when they were needed. It means they're not there all the time. They're not in our body all the time. The chances that any one of us will need it before the age of 70 or 80 are very low, and even after 70 or 80, they're not high. But the instructions for them are in us, and on this I want to talk. Also, dust in the eye. When there is dust in the eye, there are tears. And clearly, we don't cry because we are sorry that we have dust in the eye. Crying like this is a different type. The tear is made of liquid, mostly water, so it clears the dust, but not only. It also has inside one protein, an enzyme. Enzyme is a protein that knows to cut, and this particular one can cut the walls of every bacteria. So if in the dust there is a bacteria that could have caused some infection, we get rid of it by the tear. This protein is called lysozyme. So I just want to give some examples of, so again, we don't cry all the time. We don't need lysozyme all the time, but when we need, it's immediately being made because the instructions are in the cell, in all cells actually. So another point, can I get a little bit dim light, please? We will need dim lights later on, but at least a little. So in nature, I want to show a concept, the main concept in nature. Structure means function, or function means structure. And I'm using for it an example of this very complicated machine, which is called paperclip, that can do what it needs to connect together several pages, as long as it has the structure, the fold. With my own fingers, I changed the fold. I didn't boil, I didn't cut, I didn't put in acid, I didn't do anything except for changing the fold. And it's the same two clips, but they cannot do their job. So this is a major point in the way that we live. Our life is possible because the workers, which by now we know they are proteins, have the right structure. So proteins are long chains made of amino acids. There are 20 types of amino acids. And the fold of each protein, which is carefully designed for fulfilling its function, is determined by the sequence of the amino acids that building it. And there are 20 types. And this is correct for every living cell, from bacteria, through the cockroaches, flowers, trees, little animals, big animals, fish. Here maybe you are more interested in seafood, lobsters, whatever.